The book opens with a quiet but firm assertion: self-esteem is not optional. It is the foundation for a meaningful, resilient life. Without it, life is a series of compromises, half-lived moments, and quiet betrayals of one's own potential. Brandon paints a vivid picture of a person whose inner sense of worth is fragile, constantly swayed by external approval, achievements, or failure. In contrast, a person with healthy self-esteem moves through the world with steadiness, able to face challenges without collapsing into self-doubt. This difference, he argues, is the difference between merely surviving and truly thriving. From this point, the narrative moves to the core of Brandon's work, the 6 pillars of self-esteem. These pillars are not abstract ideals but daily practices that, when integrated into life, build a strong, resilient self. They are habits of consciousness, responsibility, and integrity that shape the way a person experiences themselves and the world around them. Brandon presents them as a system, each reinforcing the others, like columns that support a grand structure. The first pillar is living consciously. Brandon portrays this as waking up to life, fully aware of what is happening inside and outside of oneself. It is noticing one's thoughts, feelings, and motivations, recognizing patterns, and not being ruled by automatic reactions. Living consciously means actively participating in one's life rather than drifting through it. A person who masters this pillar sees opportunities clearly, faces challenges directly, and navigates the complexities of daily life with a grounded presence. Next is self-acceptance. Brandon emphasizes that true self-acceptance is not indulgent or complacent, it is honest acknowledgement of both strengths and flaws. It is the ability to meet oneself with compassion and understanding rather than judgment. He tells the story of people who harshly criticize themselves for failures, imagining that self-criticism will motivate change. In reality, such judgment often stifles growth. Self-acceptance allows a person to learn from mistakes without diminishing their sense of worth. Closely linked is self-responsibility. Here, Brandon brings the reader into the weight and power of personal choice. Life circumstances may be beyond control, but a person's actions, decisions, and responses belong to them. Accepting responsibility is a recognition that blaming others or circumstances is a trap that robs the individual of agency. Through vivid examples, he shows how taking responsibility transforms despair into proactive problem-solving and cultivates empowerment. The fourth pillar is self-assertiveness, the courage to honor one's own thoughts, feelings, and needs. Brandon tells stories of people who silently comply with the expectations of others at the cost of their own authenticity. Self-assertiveness is the act of saying, "I am here, and my voice matters," whether in relationships, work, or private life. It is not aggression but the balanced courage to communicate truthfully and to act in accordance with one's values. Living purposefully is the fifth pillar. Brandon narrates the lives of individuals who drift through life without clear intentions, comparing them to ships without rudders. Purposeful living is about setting goals, planning thoughtfully, and aligning actions with long-term aims. Each day becomes an opportunity to move deliberately toward meaningful outcomes. This pillar emphasizes that self-esteem grows not merely from reflection but from intentional action that expresses and reinforces one's values. Integrity, the sixth pillar, is portrayed as the silent strength of the person with high self-esteem. Brandon illustrates integrity not as perfection, but as alignment between principles and actions. A person with integrity does what they say, honors commitments, and speaks honestly. When integrity is consistently practiced, internal friction diminishes, self-trust strengthens, and others naturally respond with respect and reliability. Throughout the book, Brandon interweaves examples from everyday life, therapy sessions, and historical figures to show how these pillars operate in practice. He emphasizes that self-esteem is not a fixed trait, it can be built and rebuilt over time, often requiring courage, patience, and self-discipline. Reading his work is like walking through a workshop where the tools for inner strength are laid out clearly and practically. One of the most compelling aspects of the book is its insistence on action. Brandon does not merely theorize, he provides exercises to apply the pillars daily. These exercises are deceptively simple, noticing one's thoughts, taking responsibility for a small decision, practicing assertiveness in a safe setting, aligning a minor action with a principle. Over time, these small acts compound, creating a profound shift in self-perception and inner confidence. Brandon also explores the common obstacles to self-esteem: fear, self-doubt, perfectionism, and the lure of external validation. Through storytelling, he shows how each can be recognized and dismantled. He describes people who, despite early failures or negative conditioning, gradually reclaim their sense of worth by consistently choosing conscious, responsible, and aligned action. This approach reframes self-esteem as a skill to be cultivated rather than a static gift. The book addresses the interplay between self-esteem and relationships. Brandon presents the idea that strong self-esteem does not alienate others, rather, it fosters healthier, more honest, and mutually respectful interactions. People with grounded self-worth are less likely to manipulate, coerce, or seek validation from others because they are secure in their own value. Relationships become a mirror of growth rather than a source of anxiety. An underlying narrative throughout the text is the transformative power of courage. Brandon portrays courage as the linchpin of all 6 pillars. Each pillar requires a willingness to face discomfort, to acknowledge truths, and to act in alignment with values even when fear or resistance is present. He recounts stories of individuals who rebuilt their lives after profound setbacks, demonstrating that courage, combined with conscious action, is a vehicle for reclaiming dignity and self-worth. The book's depth comes not only from its psychological insight but from its insistence that self-esteem is inseparable from the lived experience. Brandon encourages readers to practice mindfulness, reflection, and deliberate engagement with life. Every choice, from the mundane to the significant, becomes an opportunity to reinforce or weaken self-esteem. The narrative drives home that self-worth is not bestowed but earned through sustained, authentic engagement with oneself and the world. Brandon also emphasizes the spiritual dimension of self-esteem without invoking religion. To honor oneself, to live consciously, and to act with integrity is, in his view, a form of sacred human work. The act of cultivating self-esteem is simultaneously personal and universal, affecting both the individual and the larger community through actions grounded in authenticity and responsibility. By the end of the book, readers are left not with abstract concepts but with a clear, actionable framework for transformation. Brandon's storytelling, full of real-world examples, reflections, and exercises, makes the pursuit of self-esteem feel attainable. It is a manual for becoming whole, confident, and resilient, a call to treat oneself with the respect and care often reserved for others. Ultimately, the 6 pillars of self-esteem is a journey, one that requires courage, reflection, and disciplined practice. It tells the story of ordinary people who, through conscious effort, reclaim their sense of worth and craft lives of authenticity and purpose. It leaves the reader with the understanding that self-esteem is not a luxury but the foundation of a life well lived, and that anyone willing to engage with these pillars can build it, strengthen it, and carry it through life.